question everything people tell you and find out for yourself. And don't just take it that, oh, my doctor said, because my doctor said. Gone are the days that you can just turn over control of your health to your doctor and think or believe that you're getting the best care possible.
Welcome to the Woman's Doctor podcast, helping empower women to embrace their body and soul's full potential. I'm your host, Dr. Trevor Cates, and after 22 years of working with patients, I found the answers to our health struggles are much deeper than most people realize. To help explore this, I'm interviewing colleagues and other wellness experts to get to the root cause so women can realize their true beauty and be informed decision makers for themselves and their loved ones. Did you know that your body has 50 different types of hormones? These control various functions of the body like metabolism, sleep, reproduction, and mood. With all of these hormones, it can get complicated. So today's guest is here to help us address our hormones, especially when they're low. After discovering the hidden cause of her midlife weight gain and fatigue, OBGYN Dr. Kyrin Dunston lost a life-changing 100 pounds and overcame her adrenal fatigue. She is fellowship trained in anti-aging, metabolic, and functional medicine and has practiced this exclusively for over a decade. Dr. Kyrin hosts the Hormone Prescription podcast and has been featured in media like CBS, NBC, Reader's Digest, and the Huffington Post. She is founder of Midlife Metabolism Institute and the Hormone Club, a membership program providing women access to natural hormone treatments throughout the U.S. In today's podcast, Dr. Kyrin shares why women over 40 are often in a state of hormonal poverty and how they can overcome this with natural hormone therapy and certain lifestyle changes. All of this can help us achieve optimal longevity and vitality. So listen and learn, and then share your questions with us at thewomansdoctor.com. Kyrin, it's so great to have you on the Woman's Doctor podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Trevor. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, so it was really fun. It's such a pleasure to interview you for the Hormones, Health, and Harmony docuseries. You're a rock star.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun to do that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Just wonderful.
It's so important for us to get this information out. I think for so long, unfortunately, women have been given a lot of myths. We've been fed a lot of myths about our health, our healthcare, and what we should struggle through, power through, and just suffer with, and being somewhat martyrs, which is totally unnecessary, especially as we're living older. We don't need to do that.
It really is. It's so insane. I mean, you know, when I was an OBGYN resident and practiced OBGYN for years, I wasn't in that stage of life. So I had no idea what was about to happen. And when my own health went off the rails, when I was 47 is when it really veered off. I thought, what in the world is happening to me? You know, obesity, chronic fatigue, hair loss, depression, anxiety, like this laundry list of things. Every day I would wake up and say, oh my gosh, what's it going to be today? And I didn't feel at all like myself. I was like, what is happening to me? And all my standard corporate doctor OBGYN tools really had no answers. I just had a fistful of prescriptions, you know, one for depression, birth control pills, sleeping pills, H2 blockers, right? I had all these pill for every ill, but I never felt great or lost the weight or really felt like myself. And it wasn't until I discovered that the hormones were at the root cause of all of this. And I actually learned how to speak hormone and become hormonally literate, right? I was an OBGYN. You would think should have been hormonally literate, but we OBGYNs get 0 hours of hormone balancing training. So I had to go back to school to learn how to do that and actually get myself straightened out. And then I looked at how we're treating women in this programmed state of hormonal poverty that starts somewhere around 40 and just letting them languish in hormonal poverty till death do us part. And it's okay. And it's insane. And I, for one, am going to put an end to it.
It really does need to change. And I think this, it's interesting when you talk about hormone poverty. What do you mean by that?
Well, financial poverty is lack of financial resources to pay for the things that you need in life, right? Can't pay your rent, can't buy food, can't buy clothes. Well, hormonal poverty is programmed in women by the age of their ovaries, because you're born with millions of eggs, but then when you hit puberty, they start maturing each month, and maybe one becomes mature and might become impregnated and create a pregnancy, but you lose thousands every month. So every month you're losing eggs. By the time you're 35, most of your eggs are considered to be old, quote unquote, meaning they're more prone to having chromosome anomalies that will outpicture in a baby. They're harder to become fertilized and become pregnant, and their hormone production starts going down. So hormones are more than about fertility for women. That's the other thing that's insane that I was taught as an OBGYN. We were taught that we women are just like little men, and we have this little accessory pack, kind of like when you go to that black tie dinner, you get that black bag out of the back of your closet and you pull it down, and you only take it out once a year at a black tie dinner and you wear it. And it's like a little accessory pack that makes you elegant at your black tie dinner. Well, that's what I was basically taught about women's sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone in particular, and that it confers fertility on us and it's about our sex drive. But other than that, you don't really need to worry about it. And what I learned since I learned how to speak hormone and became hormonally literate is that nothing could be further from the truth. Hormones are the very foundation of how our bodies function. We are foundationally different from men. And these hormones we have more receptors for them in our brain than anywhere else. Well, what does that tell you? It's important for our brain function. So it makes us smart and happy. So here we come with these programmed ovarian obsolescence around 35, 40, 45, and our hormone levels start going down, and we start walking into rooms going, why did I come in here? And we start snapping at our family for no reason. And we go to the doctor. What are we told? Oh, you're just depressed. Here's an antidepressant. You're not depressed. Your brain is not being nourished by the hormones that keep it healthy. I say you don't have juicy hormones, but really you're just in hormonal poverty, just like you don't have money to pay the light bill. So it's dark in your house. You don't have hormones to get your brain light lit up so that you feel like yourself and you feel passionate and happy and clear and focused. So that's what hormonal poverty is. And then the final insult comes on average age in the US at 51 when we go through menopause. You're not only estrogen deficient, but you're progesterone deficient, and over half of us are testosterone deficient. And lest some woman or anyone say, oh, testosterone in women, not a big deal. Wrong, right? Testosterone, we need it. We don't have as much as men, but when we don't have it, we're sitting on the couch watching soap operas and eating bonbons because we just don't care and don't have the drive, and we lose muscle mass. And 60% of us are overweight or obese by the time we're 50, and 75% of us by the time we're 60. Lack of testosterone, estrogen, progesterone all contributes to this. Meanwhile, we're looking on the internet, on Dr. Google for what's the diet I need? I need the one diet. What's the one supplement I need to take? What's the one exercise program I need to do to fix all of this? And we're going to our corporate HMO $30 copay doctors, and they're telling us, oh, hormones are dangerous. Wrong, because they're hormonally illiterate. And the easiest thing for a doctor to say is, no, that's not safe, when they don't have the time and understanding to really research it and become hormonally illiterate or interest, frankly. It's just not that big a deal. We are marginalized population. I know I'm getting on a rant. But we're marginalized as older women, right? Like, look in the media. How many older women do you see? You see more and more every day, but we really, it's oftentimes to make fun of us and kind of exploit the cliches about older women, which are a bunch of lies. So anyway, hormonal poverty is the state that we all enter into gradually, starting in our 40s and completely usually in our 50s. And it denies our brains the hormones that they need to function. Alzheimer's and dementia risk is increased with hormonal poverty. Blindness is increased with hormonal poverty. I just wrote an article for Mind Body Green on this. Who's talking about that? Is any doctor saying to their patient, oh, you might want to consider taking hormones because your eyes could have consequences from not having these hormones that could lead to blindness. Maybe that might interest you, or could lead to Alzheimer's. My mom has advanced stage Alzheimer's. It is the most horrible disease I can imagine. I always wonder, like, what if she had been on hormone replacement therapy? And that's part of the protocol for helping to reverse Alzheimer's. You know, your heart disease, heart attack, #1 killer of women over 50. We just threw that out the window, right? That no, hormones aren't safe. You don't need it. #1 killer of women. Never mind that these hormones could help you. And you know, the list goes on and on, Trevor. It's ungrounded fear and misinformation, and doctors not knowing about hormonal literacy, not being hormonally literate, not understanding that this is an impoverished state, and not doing anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for going on that rant. I appreciate it. Well, I think that was one of the big myths is around bioidentical hormone therapy or hormone replacement therapy is not safe. So can you help people understand why that's not true?
I love this comment because so it's funny. When you're not hormonally literate, you don't understand that apples are not oranges and oranges are not apples. So this is why doctors are so afraid and think that hormones aren't safe. So it started with the Women's Health Initiative study almost 20 years ago. Large scale trial in California that they did at Kaiser, and looked at like over 15,000 women on synthetic hormones. What are synthetic hormones? Biologically and chemically dissimilar from the hormones you naturally have. That means you naturally have 3 types of estrogen: estrone, estradiol, estriol. Were these women on any of those? No. They were on horse estrogen. Is horse estrogen the same as human estrogen? No. Apples are not oranges and oranges are not apples. They're both fruit. They're both going to be in the fruit section at the supermarket. They are chemically dissimilar. Your body is made to see biologically identical estrogens. It is not made to see horse estrogen. Now, what kind of progestin were they on? They were not on progesterone, yet if you look in our journals and you hear corporate doctors talk, you'll say, oh, the Women's Health Initiatives showed that estrogen and progesterone were dangerous and caused breast cancer. Wrong. No one in that study was on estrogen, estradiol, estriol, estrone, or progesterone. They were on a progestin. What's a progestin? So in that study, it was medroxyprogesterone acetate. What's that, Dr. Kyrin? That is a hormone that is made in the lab where they take progesterone and they chemically alter it by adding chemical groups on it to make it dissimilar from your body's natural progesterone, because they can't get a patent on a naturally occurring body substance. And in order to get the R&D money, billions of dollars back that they have to spend to get FDA approval, they have to make it chemically dissimilar. So let's just add some chemical groups on this progesterone. We're going to tell everybody it's progesterone. They won't know the difference. It's really not. And we're going to give it to these women. Well, the combination of the two is what increased risks of breast cancer, and they stopped that study early. And doctors who were hormonally illiterate said, oh, they don't understand that those are synthetic apple hormones and not biologically identical orange hormones. So they just extrapolate and go, all hormones are bad. That's not true. That's not what that study said. Never mind that they've come back and said that was a poorly designed study and it had a lot of flaws. But this is where the problems come from. Now, one of the arguments they say is, oh, well, there's no large multi-center, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial on bioidentical hormones, therefore they're not safe. Is that really true? So I welcome women listening to question everything people tell you and find out for yourself, and don't just take it that, oh, my doctor said, because my doctor said. Gone are the days that you can just turn over control of your health to your doctor and think or believe that you're getting the best care possible. Gone. Because mainstream corporate medicine is a paradigm. It is a system of for-profit healthcare that profits off your illness. They're not interested in having you be as healthy as possible and live as long as possible, because they're in bed with big insurance, big pharma, big food, and this whole conglomerate profits off your illness. So if you are looking to the wolf who's guarding us, the sheep, to tell you what's best for you, you're looking in the wrong place. So you've got to figure this out, some of it for yourself, and people like Trevor and me and all our colleagues who are out here speaking the truth. But you're not going to see this on the 5 o'clock news, right? Because it's not news. Women's Health Initiative study was news. So biologically identical hormones, every woman that I meet, when they hear what I do, they're very interested because they're miserable. Every woman over 40 does not feel like herself that I meet. I've never met a woman over 40 who is like, oh, I feel amazing. I don't want to know anything about what you offer. They're all like, ooh, can I pull up a chair, please? I need help. Every cocktail party, you're in line at the supermarket. I was at the hairdresser one time and the woman literally, anyway, I won't go into that, but she pulled her pants down because she wanted to talk to me about something. So if you're listening, you know I'm right. So what you need to understand is this idea of we don't need hormones. So I'll talk to some women, they'll go, I'm not going to take hormone therapy. I'm going through menopause naturally, as if it's some badge of honor, like I'm going through childbirth naturally, which I said until I got like 4 centimeters and I'm like, give me the epidural. So if your doctor says to you, you know what, you've got a little bit of osteopenia, a little bit of bone thinning, and we've checked some of your blood levels and you are calcium and vitamin D and vitamin K deficient. It would be beneficial for you to take supplements of calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K to help your bone strength. No woman ever said, that's unnatural. I'm going to do osteoporosis naturally. I'm not taking those. Well, we have this value judgment around hormones, which who knows where it comes from, but we have bought into this lie that somehow, I don't know, we're less of a woman if we take hormones, or it's not natural. It's not. Is it natural for you to take calcium and vitamin D and vitamin K? I've never heard a woman say it's not natural, they're not going to do it. So why, if you're in hormonal poverty and experiencing, you can't sleep, you're overweight, you have no sex drive, your hair's falling out, you're tired, you're depressed, you're anxious, your skin's saggy and wrinkly, your heart is affected, your brain is affected, all these things. Why in the world would you say, I'm going to do hormonal poverty naturally? Does any person in poverty who someone comes and says, oh, we're going to do like some job entry program to help you get on your feet and get a better job and get a home, go, nah, I'm good. I think I'll just stay here living on the street. No. And then I've never had an intelligent woman who, when I've had this discussion with her, she started out like with her arms crossed going, oh, it's not natural. I'm doing menopause naturally. And then when she really understood what she was signing up for and what 80 and 90 were going to look like if she made it that far. So longevity is documented to be shorter in women who do not have hormones, right? So if she knows what she's signing up for, I've never seen a woman who didn't like try to bust the door down and go, oh my God, I need hormones and I need them now.
No, it's so true. And just by the way, men need them too, but they're just different. Well, and men's testosterone declines and impacts their health. It's different than what we experience. And maybe ours can be a little more dramatic. But I think it's important because I think sometimes we think, well, that's not fair. Why is it that women just go through these changes? But the thing is, we're living longer and we want to continue a certain quality of life. And we want to live longer, first of all, because some of the stuff you're talking about is in order to live longer. And then some of it is, our skin, our sex drive, our energy, our weight, all of these things are just things that are going to get in the way for having that quality of life that we want as we live longer, right?
Yeah, it's about quantity of life, how long you live. There have been a few studies done where they've looked at when women went through earlier menopause, surgically or naturally. The earlier they go through menopause, the shorter their lifespan. So lifespan directly correlates to the presence of hormonal prosperity and abundance or the lack of it. What doctors are telling their patients this? None. I don't even think they know it. And quality of life, right? Like you said, you just don't feel like yourself. I mean, you will have to pry my hormones out of my cold, dead hands because I've lived life in hormonal poverty. When I was 47 and I discovered that's what was happening, I was in perimenopause, I was progesterone deficient and testosterone deficient at the time. And then as I progressed and supplemented them, oh my gosh, and I lost 100 pounds and got off all prescription medications, and my entire, the clock just turned back to 20. But then at one point, a few years later, I got something called tachyphylaxis, where you stop absorbing the transdermal creams, and I didn't know it until I finally did a test, and I felt terrible. And then I had no hormones because my body wasn't absorbing them, which is a whole other discussion. So I had to switch to pellets. So I've twice had no hormones and been in hormonal poverty. It is miserable.
Why is it that some women experience more symptoms than others? I mean, there are some women that I've talked to that are like, never really got a hot flash, didn't really get night sweats. I feel pretty good. And they just kind of sail right through it, where other women could be, mid 30s and they start developing problems with their periods, with insomnia, with night sweats, with all kinds of mood things. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's a great question. And I think it has to do with what we call pathological menopause. So there are some countries where they don't even really have a word for menopause. I believe Japan is one of those countries, because it's not a symptomatic event, or it wasn't until they kind of adopted Western lifestyle. And so why is menopause so challenging for so many of us in industrialized countries? I think has to do with the fact of it's not just about our sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. It's also about our other main metabolic hormones, insulin, thyroid, cortisol, DHEA. And also oxytocin, I'll add in there. So particularly cortisol, I call her Queen Cortisol. Why do I call her that? Because the queen will be served, or she will take everything down. And she is our stress hormone, and she responds to what we might recognize as stress, life stress, psychosocial stress, difficult jobs, interpersonal relationships, finances, all those things. But she responds to a lot of things that we don't register consciously as being stressful. Two places that comes from. Number one is blood sugar stress, which the majority of Americans have because we eat a very carbohydrate laden diet. So our blood sugar, we're all on the blood sugar roller coaster, a lot of us going up and down all day. And our doctor does annual blood work and tells us we're fine, or maybe tells us we have a touch of sugar, and they'll just watch it and recheck it next year. And all the while we're on this spectrum of insulin and glucose dysregulation, the ultimate destination of which is diabetes. But we don't have to have diabetes to be having problems from that. We can just have a little bit of an insulin glucose problem. Well, that in itself can cause fatigue, weight gain, hot flashes. And so women always want to blame a lot of these symptoms on their sex hormones, but it might not be their sex hormones' fault at all. It could be insulin. And then if you've got this insulin dysregulation, it jives with Queen Cortisol and starts punching her, and she considers that a stress. And she can become dysregulated, which leads to overweight, difficulty sleeping, hot flashes, decreased libido, poor immune system function, getting sick more often, not feeling like yourself, and a whole host of other things. And then the third stressor on cortisol is inflammation and toxicity in our body. And corporate medicine is not addressing this at all. But the majority of us have a significant reservoir of toxins, abnormal chemicals we're getting it in the food we eat, artificial flavorings, colorings, preservatives, pesticides, herbicides. We're getting it in our cleaning products. We're getting it in our toiletries, our personal care products, in our water. So we're inundated with these toxins, and they have a hard time getting out of our body. And it's not standard of care that people are helped with detoxification. So if when I practice regular OBGYN, I love that Oprah says, when you know better, you do better. Because I look back at those days and I'm like, eesh, I did that. Well, that's what I was taught. So people would ask me, well, Dr. Kyrin, do I need to take a multivitamin? And I was taught to say, so I said, no, you get it in your food, which is not true. And people would say to me, Dr. Kyrin, do I need to do a detox? And what was I taught to say? That I said, no, your body handles it. And now I know that those are two of the biggest lies propagated by mainstream medicine that are keeping us sick. And so here we are, women living on this planet for decades, consuming all this stuff, no formal nutritional repletion plan, no formal full-scale whole body detox, no hormonal balance. We're in hormonal poverty. It's no wonder by the time we get to 50, 60, 70, we're like, oh my gosh, what happened to me? I used to be this wonderful, lively, vivacious person who loved life. And now I just want to drink red wine, coffee in the morning and red wine at night. I call it the midlife tango, and hang out with my girlfriends and complain and never have sex again. And I'm like, that's not okay, y'all. So that's why I think in our country, we have pathological menopause. We have undiagnosed insulin, cortisol problems. Oxytocin fits in there too. And that drags down, particularly the cortisol, our sex hormones. Cortisol and progesterone are directly linked. And so when your cortisol has a problem, it's going to pull down the house of cards of your sex hormones, because cortisol will be served. And so this is why I think we have some women with such pathological perimenopause and menopause symptoms, sometimes even in their 30s. And you have on the other spectrum, some women who say, I never even had a hot flash. But nonetheless, I think just because you don't have symptoms doesn't mean that you don't need hormones. As evidence, osteopenia, osteoporosis, they have no symptoms until you break a bone, right? So should your doctor not screen you for that and not do a DEXA scan and not look at your calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K and wait till you get a broken bone and then go, whoops, guess you needed some support there? And just because you don't have symptoms doesn't mean that your cells aren't deteriorating because they don't have this hormonal nourishment. So do you want to wait till you get a mild cognitive impairment diagnosis and you're headed down the dementia route for your doctor to go, oh, maybe we should get you on some natural hormones? Do you want to wait till, you start having vascular dysfunction and you have a stroke or a mini stroke for your doctor to go, oh, now you're symptomatic. Now maybe we should talk about you getting some hormones? Like, that's insane. Prophylax, prevent problems from happening and be as healthy as possible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's great that you covered this because we certainly don't want people to think it's just wait until there's a problem and then take bioidentical hormones. And there's so many different forms, as you mentioned. There's creams and there's oral and there's pellets and we talk more about that in the docu-series. But that we need to support our health overall, healthy eating, nutritional supplements, herbal supplements, managing our blood sugar, managing cortisol, stress management practices, movement, all of these
Mhm.
things. And we talk about all of this and detoxification in the docu-series at length because you have to build this foundation for health that in conventional medicine, your doctor's just not teaching you this stuff.
Your doctor is not. And so, you've got to become the CEO of your own health. Like Dr. Maritza says, I love it when she says that. And, you've got to have like a health library and database in your house. You need to start keeping every physical exam you get a copy of the record. Every lab you get a copy of the record. Get a 3-ring binder and put it all in there chronologically and keep track of it. You need to start taking some classes in becoming hormonally illiterate, becoming health literate, toxicity literate, nutrition literate. You've got to have a working knowledge of this. There's so much available to us now with the internet, but there's a lot of information. You can have, a couple million results of information. If you like how to balance your hormones naturally, you'll have millions of results in a few seconds, but there's no wisdom on the internet telling you which information is credible and what's the strategy and tactics that you need. So you need to find someone who's expert in these fields and who has become hormonally literate and toxin literate and gut health literate and all of these things, and take courses and educate yourself so that you can have the best outcomes. I mean, I have some women in my virtual programs who are in their 70s. And they heard my Stop the Menopause Madness Summit, or they listened to my Hormone Prescription podcast, and they are appalled at, oh my God, nobody told me. And I didn't even know what I was missing out on. And they are angry. You talk about angry. Because, with our kind of my generation where I am now, the internet really is bringing this groundswell that women can access this information. Where are we going to get it before? And I'd say that's really in the past 10, 15, 20 years. So they're mad and they're like, I want my hormones. Wait, what was that commercial, Trevor? Not the where's the beef, but it was like for some fast food, and people were like, no, I want my MTV. I want my MTV. And these women are like, I want my hormones. Because once you can't just sit there and go, oh no, I'm okay going quietly into the night, dying earlier than I should, at less of my full capacity than is possible for the rest of my life. So like there was another ad when I was growing up. I lived in New York City, and their motto was, an educated consumer is our best customer. It was a suit store for men. But the whole point was, once you want a better suit. Once you understand how your health works, you will not tolerate the disease management model that you're getting at your HMO doctor's office. And you're going to go, I want a higher standard of care for myself.
Okay. Well, Kyrin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and getting us all motivated. And I think, we cover so much in the Hormones, Health, and Harmony docu-series of that foundation that is so important in detoxification. So thank you again for being both in the docu-series and the podcast. And I know that you also have a business that will help women being able to get bioidentical hormones. So we'll be able to put that in the show notes, and so people can find out more about. But where else can people learn about you?
Yes. So Dr. Trevor's going to share with you a link. It's a resource if you don't have a doctor who can help you get natural hormones. This is a virtual solution where we've got board certified doctors who can help you. And she's going to put that in the show notes. And people can find me, let's see, on my website, KyrinDunstonMD.com. I'll spell it because it's a little different. So it's KyrinDunstonMD.com. And I'm at Kyrin Dunston MD on Facebook and Instagram. So I look forward to connecting with y'all there.
Thanks again, Kyrin. Thank you for listening to the Woman's Doctor podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with the women in your life. And to learn all about balancing hormones, join us for the Hormones, Health, and Harmony docuseries at thewomansdoctor.com.